Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here and welcome back to the railway and welcome back to a new review of a modern locomotive. This time it's the Adams Radial Tank by Oxford Rail, as you can see there, which is interesting because obviously this is the first locomotive from Oxford Rail, which is very exciting. So yes, the Adams Radial Tank was designed by William Adams and it was a tank engine with an unusual 442 wheel configuration. And the loco was also known as the 415 class, and it was designed for the LSWR and first introduced in 1882. In total there were 71 engines produced, but most of them were scrapped during the First World War. And the rest were obtained by the Southern Railway apparently, but most were withdrawn before 1930. There is one left that's been preserved, and I believe that's at the Bluebell Railway, and that's number 30583, but it isn't operational, and apparently it hasn't been for about 20 years, but it is awaiting overhaul, so perhaps one day we will see it run, but in model form, here it is. And as I say, yeah, Oxford Rail, a fairly new company. Up until recently they've just sort of catered for rolling stock. They've done a few coaches, a few wagons, but this is their first locomotive. It is only in the BR Black livery at the moment, but I believe they are bringing out a few new liveries, which is great. And also in the next 12 months they're bringing out a completely new loco, which is the Dean Goods locomotive, which is an 060 tender loco. So let's take a look at the box. As you can see, it's in this lovely sort of blood and custard colour scheme, which is a little bit like a coach, of course. And as you can see here, you've got the Oxford Rail logo, in pursuit of excellence, which is great. We all like a bit of excellence. Normally I would say we'll take a look at the end of the box, but unfortunately there isn't a label on the end of the box, which is a bit strange. But if we look on the back, there is in fact a label here, which I suppose is a sticker, which you probably stick on the end of a box. A bit strange. But yeah, on the end of the box, there's nothing in terms of information. There's just a few warning messages and such. So yeah, that's about it. Let's take the logo out the box and see how we get on with the unboxing. And you can't see an awful lot without the glare, so let's take this out. And it's in the beautiful block of ice packaging, as most locos often are nowadays. But it's great that this new company has started out like that. And what you have here is the operation and maintenance booklet, which does have a photograph of the locomotive, and here is the information about it. And it's quite a bit more than a brief history, and if you'd like to pause it to read it, that's absolutely fine. But also in here, as you can see, there's some hints and tips. And there's also some, you know, how to lubricate and fit chips and whatnot, how it all comes apart and fits together, which is great, and it's nice that they included that. So that's that. But now let's get the loco out, because that's the part we've all been waiting for. And here it is. Let's take the sleeve off first. And first thing we've got is a detail pack, which isn't huge, but it's got quite a bit in there. There's the braking rods there, as you can see. There's a coupling for the front, I presume, and there's also a few little bits of detail. I'm not sure what they are, but I'm sure they have a use somewhere. So let's get this out of the packaging then. It just unclips at the back, much like the Bachmann stuff does, and Hornby now. And here it is, here's the logo, and really, it is very, very, very well detailed. That's the first thing I can say. It doesn't have an awful lot of weight to it. You know, it is cast, it isn't plastic. So you would expect perhaps for it to weigh a little bit more, but it certainly does not have a bad weight to it. And as you can see, it's a beautifully detailed model, but obviously you can't see it too great just here. So what I'll do is I'll take it up onto the white background for you, and I'll do a proper review of this lovely model. Okay, let's get on to it. Alright, so there she is up against the white background, the Oxford Rail Adams Radial Tank, which is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, if we consider that this is their first attempt at a locomotive, you know, it's the first release they've done, they've got no experience whatsoever on producing locomotives. As it turns out, this is an absolutely gorgeous model. First of all, it's miles ahead of Hornby, it's far superior to Hornby, and secondly, it's probably on a par with Bachmann. You know, the level of detail is just fantastic, and it just really proves that even though Oxford Rail haven't made a locomotive before, they've really put a lot of effort into making sure it's absolutely as good as it can possibly be. And I might add as well that that's something that Hornby doesn't do, and they are a practiced hand at making locomotives, as we know. But seriously, it's absolutely wonderful how detailed and how well built this thing is. Let's take a look at some of the features. First of all, let's take a look at the paint job. Of course, you've got this BR black, first of all with the lovely late British Railways crest on the side there, which is so neatly and finely applied, it really is. And of course it's circled by that red and yellow stripe there, which is gorgeous. On the boiler you've got the double red stripes going all along there, which just look absolutely wonderful. And everywhere you look there's embellishment on the paint job. Of course you've got the running number on the coal bunker there, which says 30583, and 1P of course, passenger locomotive, but only a very weak one, classified there by the British Railways. And you've also got a very, very tiny badge on one of the wheel arches there, which I'm sure is legible. I'm 100% sure it's legible, but not by my eyes even, and they're normally good eyes, mine are, so fantastically small detail there. Separately fitted parts are completely all over this model. First of all, the most obvious is I suppose the handrails, and a few people were a bit annoyed because apparently the real locomotive didn't have handrails, but I think, you know, it's quite a nice addition, isn't it? And it does give you a little bit more to look at, I think. But even aside from that, you've got the tiny little pipes and such, you've got the little separately fitted parts there, that looks like something to do with the plumbing or something. You've got the pre-fitted vacuum pipe on the front there, as well as little lamp irons. The lamp irons are absolutely all over it, as you can see on the back as well. And while we're around the back, I'll show you the buffers, which are sprung. Hang on. There you go. Very, very tiny buffers, but they are sprung, which is excellent. As you can see also, the whole thing is really, really well riveted. There are rivets everywhere, especially around the smoke box. As you can see, it's just peppered with them, really. And of course, the smoke box door is really, really nicely detailed, with the running number on the front there in white and the shed code. And also the little handle on the front there is painted white, which is a really nice addition. And you know, when it's coming towards you on the track, that's really something that you notice, which is beautifully done. Inside the cab is absolutely wonderful, even though you can't see it too well, you know, even though it's quite an enclosed cab. They perhaps didn't need to do this, but the fact that they have is just absolutely wonderful. You can see it's just a massively detailed cab. It really is. The gauges even have the little numbers on them. It's just incredible. I'm sure my camera won't be able to pick them up, but it really is incredible in there. I would love to take the loco apart just to get a really good look at the cab, but of course I won't do that. You've also got glazed windows, which are very large, aren't they? They give the loco quite a character from behind, I think those large windows do. And I suppose the fact that they're square and not round is quite a characteristic as well. But also around the cab you've got a lot of rivets around the roof area and such. Let's very quickly have a look at the coal. As you can see, as you would expect, it is beautifully fine detailed coal. I suppose it might be removable, I'm not too sure. I don't know if you could put your own in there or not, but not that you'd really want to, because it is fantastic coal, it really is realistic. And of course the model has NEM couplings as well. Well, it does on the back, and I assume you can just clip the one into the front if you like it. Looking at the wheels, as you can see, you've got the front bogie there, and in between those two you've got the sort of steam chest, or the valve chest if you like, with a little bit of valve gear on the side there, which always looks lovely on tank engines, I think. And then of course you've got the two sets of driving wheels there, linked together with a very, very fine linkage rod, as you can see. So yeah, a very interesting locomotive. I hope you've seen it properly now. We're going to move on to talk about performance. Now there is one problem I found with this engine, and I'll show you what it is. And I think it lies in the fact that this back wheel, let me show you, is not sprung. So if I push it, it doesn't give at all. And what that means is, if the locomotive hits a slope of any kind, let me just make sure this is on the tracks, if it hits a gradient of any kind, it means that the driving wheels are lifted from the tracks, and I can demonstrate that quite easily here on this white background. So if I just grab the rails, here we go, if I just bend them upwards slightly, you can see there that the driving wheels lift off the ground. Now of course it wouldn't have to be this steeper gradient to make that effect happen, but as you can see they do lift off the ground. Now I'm going to compare this now to a Bachmann loco, and this one is the Class 5 tank engine. If I just move the Oxford locomotive out of the way for a second, I'll just demonstrate firstly. You can see the rear and front wheels here are sprung, so if I push them they give in like this, and then if I put it onto the track, I'm trying to do this from above so I can't really see, if I do the same thing now where I flex it, as you can see those wheels are sprung up, and the driving wheels remain on the track. So if this locomotive were to hit a small gradient, it wouldn't stop. It would still have traction, so it would still be able to run. But of course, when the Oxford Rail locomotive, when their driving wheels are lifted from the tracks, you lose traction and the locomotive stops. And even though my layout is remarkably flat, there are very, very slight gradients in certain places, which means that it does stop, effectively, stops dead. The wheels continue to turn, but they stop dead completely. So that is something they really, really need to do. It's probably the only fault I can find with the engine, but this back wheel really needs to be sprung. It really needs to have a little bit more give, because it's just no good if you've got any hills or any inclines or any slopes at all, because it just won't handle them. Once you're onto the slope, you don't have any problems, but it's just as the track gradually slopes upwards that you'll have the problem. So yeah, anyway, that aside, let's take her onto the tracks and let's get her running, shall we? Alright, so there's the Radial Tank then sitting on the tracks, looking absolutely fantastic. It really, really does. And of course we'll get her to perform for you in just a second, but I'll show you what else is on the line. She's going to be coupling up to a couple of Blood and Custard coaches just up there. It is only a 1P, so it's not going to be pulling much, so I thought just a couple of coaches there would be nice. On the other line I've got the LNER J50, which is a tank engine but otherwise completely different, and she's just got a few LNER coaches. I know normally she's a freight locomotive, but I thought today she'd pull some coaches just for something different, but again another small rake. But incidentally the J50 weighs about twice as much as the Radial Tank, and the Radial Tank isn't light, but you know, it perhaps could do with a tiny bit more weight. But that being said, let's fire her up and see how she gets on. So here we go. Little bit of juice. As you can see, it's very smooth, really smooth, but also quite noisy. It's not the quietest, but it's not a major complaint. You can see it's got a bit of noise to it, but it really isn't too bad, is it? It's not, well, it's cut out on the points, so perhaps that's maybe a slight downfall. Pull her forwards a bit. There we go. But other than that, not bad at all. And I am going to demonstrate the issue with the traction that I showed you earlier with the rear wheel not being sprung. I will actually take her out onto the railway now, down to the scenic part, where there is a very slight gradient, and I'll probably try and show you that problem. So yeah, let's do that now. Alright, so the engine's just on the left of the shot there, as you can see, and it's this section here, really from here to here, where there's a very, very slight gradient. It's very, very unnoticeable most of the time, but with this loco it is noticeable. And watch out just behind this tree here. That's where it normally happens. That's where the cutout normally occurs. So we're just going to run her forwards basically and see what happens. But it normally does it quite reliably. So here we go. Forward she goes, over the point, and she'll come to a halt just there. And as you can see, the wheels are turning, but they've been lifted off the track with that back wheel. And that just wouldn't happen if that back wheel had a spring in it and a little bit of, a little bit of room for movement. So if I just give it a push, it should regain traction, because it's just a solid hill from here on. It's just a regular hill, and as you can see, it's got traction again. So anyway, yes, you can see the issue that it has there. Obviously, it's in this case it's my fault for being on the floor. It probably wouldn't happen so much, but even if your layout isn't on the floor and it's got a slight gradient, the same thing will happen. But anyway, let's try and couple up to the coaches then. Let's give, I'm not sure which direction she's set in now, but let's see. Let's try and couple. Nope, that's forwards. Okay, back we go then, and we'll try and couple to them. There she goes, and she should be ready to take those away then, so I'll just swap her into forwards and hopefully she'll pull them. And she's on the outer line here, which doesn't have so much slope, so I'm hoping she will get round alright. So I guess we'll see. So there goes the Adams Radial Tank at a good speed. Let's start the J50 up as well then, shall we? And there she goes, taking her coaches with her of course. And let's watch them both go round the railway, shall we? Very elegant on the line, isn't she? She just looks fantastic. It's one of my favourite tank engines already, I reckon. Alright, so now just to show you very quickly the various ratings for this loco. Detail, first of all, 10 out of 10. As you saw, absolutely wonderful levels of detail. Really fantastic detail. Performance, it is lower, 6 out of 10. The motor is a little bit noisy, but that isn't the problem. The problem is the rear wheel that isn't sprung, which causes the loco to stop dead on gradients, which is a shame, but other than that, it's only a minor thing, and I'm sure they could correct it easily. Character, 9 out of 10. You know, it's a completely unique looking locomotive, it really is. It's a gorgeous thing. 9 out of 10 there. Build quality, again, 9 out of 10. Absolutely can't fault it. It really is very well built, and you really do get what you pay for, which brings us on to value, 8 out of 10. It is a little bit on the expensive side, which is why it's only an 8 out of 10. But again, you do get what you pay for. It's not a cheap and nasty locomotive by any means, and I think it will look fantastic on any layout. So overall, 8 out of 10. Fantastic loco. There's one niggle with it, which is of course the rear wheel, but other than that, a really fantastic locomotive and a amazing first attempt for Oxford Rail. So yep, let's keep them running a little bit longer, shall we? Gorgeous engine, isn't it? I really do like it. So yep, I hope you enjoyed seeing her anyway. It's one of those that really is just great fun to run and see going. So yeah, lovely engine, really like it. And the J50, of course, is one that Hornby did do very well, to be fair. It's like it came from another planet, because Hornby locos at the moment are not as good as that. So that one is really one on its own. Well, that will just about do it for today then, everybody. So thank you all very much for watching. As always, it's very much appreciated to have your company, of course. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like or even a comment on the video, because I do love to hear from you. That's really one of the best things about doing all this on YouTube. And also, if you'd like to, you can check out the Facebook or Twitter pages at facebook.com/samstrains or twitter.com/samstrains. It would be lovely to see you on there, but for now I'll say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers everybody.